And she's the only one can make them disappear.
Hey everybody, I'm Scotty J. You are watching Rock Titan Music Television. I've got an awesome guest with us right now. He is currently on tour with Myles Kennedy and Company. I have been getting my groove on all day long. I'm very excited to introduce you to this guest. He's the lead singer of the Walking Papers, Jefferson Angell.
Hey.
Hey, Jefferson, how you doing, man? Yes,
Good.
Finally, after all this technical crap I had to go through, here we are, finally.
You? Hell, I was right there with you, brother.
Yeah, right, you're experiencing for me. And by the way, I have to say, I love your hat.
Thank you. I like yours as well.
You like my hat? I feel like this is
I
like...
think you could better frame it, though, because like you keep kind of letting your hat fall out of the picture. And it's gotta like get it in there, you know?
Right? You know, but this is like an episode of Dr. Seuss Go Dog Go. You know, when they come up, they're like, do you like my hat? I do not like your hat. Do you like my hat? You know? But I love your hat.
Thank you.
Yes.
It is a, what do they call it? It's called a...
Pork pie.
No, mine is actually something different.
Huh?
It's a Stratoliner. It's
Okay.
a little bit different.
I was going to say, if you grew a little bit of facial hair like what I have right now, you know, you could pass yourself off as the Breaking Bad guy. You know what I mean? Walter White.
Maybe.
You know? That's at least what I, you know, that's how I play things off. But the Walking Papers, you guys are on tour with Myles Kennedy, and of course our photojournalist, Ambler, who I tried to get involved with this earlier. Ambler, I'm sorry, I suck. But she had a chance to catch up with you in person. And of course I saw all the video of the show, and you know, I felt like I was there live in real time. And how was it that you actually caught up with Ambler? I'm just curious.
I met her after the show at the merch. I usually go back there and try to meet with the people and say hello, you know.
Right on.
Try to be a friendly guy and be grateful for the people showing up and, you know, supporting music and live music and all that kind of stuff.
I'll tell you what,
that means a lot to me.
And I'm so glad you said that. And that's one of the things I really love about you, because a lot of the bands nowadays, most bands, have that VIP package, you know, where their fans can go and meet with them before the show, after the show, get things signed and things like that. You don't necessarily see a lot of the musicians going out to the merch table, you know, and just meeting with all the fans that essentially provide them with a career. And here you are doing that. Why do you do that?
They're all VIP to me, Scott, so I'm happy to have them.
That's awesome. Now, I mean, is that just something that was, you know, ingrained in you? Did you kind of take your lead from any other musicians that maybe you idolized, you know, as a young musician growing up, or is that just who Jefferson Angell is?
I think it's more just me. I'm just a driven person, and I'm, you know, part of music is trying to make a connection with people, and I kind of, you know, like to meet people and know, you know, sometimes it doesn't go well, but most of the times I find out that they're really cool people, and some of them are actually like my long-term friends now at this point. You know, when I go to certain cities and stuff, some people I even stay with them when I go there, or invite them to stay with me when they come home. And now that isn't an open invitation to anybody that meets me at the merch booth, but you know, somehow some of these relationships have turned into, you know, good, solid relationships, and you know, and I'm happy that music has introduced me to them. I mean, it's no different than like, I mean, most of my relationships in life are based on music in one way or another, you know. Right. And so I'm happy to have had that music as a conduit for those people to make that connection, you know.
Right on. Now, see, if I would have known that when you guys were at the Queen up here in Wilmington, Delaware, just this past week, I would have had you over to my place, you know. We could have been in Rock Titan Studios right here, and, you know, we could have been hanging out, jamming, you know. But next time you guys come around,
there we go.
You have an open invite to come out here into the middle of nowhere, you know, where Rock Titan Studios currently is. But WP2, man, I'll tell you what, I don't use this word often, all right? But groovy. Just groovy, man. I mean, I love it. The whole album, yeah, it's rock and roll, but you guys have such a distinctive sound. And, you know, it's not exactly, at least in my opinion, what you had with your debut album, Walking Papers. You know, WP2, it seems to have a very relationship-centric vibe to it. You know, I mean, I'm listening to, you know, the lyrics of all these songs, really paying close attention this time, you know, just versus just listening to the beat, listening to the sound, the rhythm and everything that I get into. I'm really paying attention to your message, your words, your story that you're conveying.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely. And, you know, things like, I just want to pull it up here. I swear to God, I never do this. But Death on the Lips, you know, as I'm driving, you know, I'm just like kind of kicking back, you know. And it's like if I had any hair that blow in the wind, you know, as I'm driving, it just had such a cool feel. But all the songs across WP2, were you going through any relationship issues at that time? Because it felt very personal.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a married guy, but it's the weird thing is I think for my poor wife, she would probably be the world probably thinks that we have a troubled, turbulent relationship, but I don't know that it's that so much as that if I have an issue, I work it out through song, and when everything's going great, I don't really write songs about that, you know what I mean? But it's not just that. I think that you know, they're more like character studies of people, not necessarily myself. I'm not always the person that's in the song. Sometimes I'm living vicariously through the song, and I think that you know, a character to develop needs a dilemma. You know what I mean? You need a dilemma to develop character. So it's like that kind of fine.
Right on.
That's where my songs. You know, you don't see a lot of movies or books about people where everything just goes their way, because you know what?
Sure.
Without some kind of, you know, a life without some kind of suffering and some kind of struggle is almost not worth living. You know what I mean?
Right on.
You wouldn't have nothing to compare it to, you know?
Right on. Right on. Well, kind of, you know, in that vein of thought, you know, with relationships and struggle and, you know, things that you may not necessarily anticipate and things of that nature. This tour you're on with Myles Kennedy and company, I know that, you know, working on WP2, you still had Duff and you still had Barrett working on this project, you know, and of course they had been with you since the beginning. And of course Guns N' Roses has their big tour, you know, Barrett, you know, has, you know, his Barrett Martin group going out on tour, so they can't be with you on this specific tour. So you have other guys filling in for them right now, which from what I've heard and from what I've seen and actually listened to, they're doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, they're great players.
Absolutely. And that being said, you know, with all the build-up to being able to support the WP2 album, now you're out there on tour, does it kind of pain you at all to not be able to have, and again, we understand why Duff and Barrett aren't able to be along, but does it pain you at all not to be able to have them on the tour for an album that they contributed so much to?
No, I mean, you know, I mean, I was validated by the fact that those guys would want to work for me, and I appreciate that, but honestly, I never thought Duff would play with us in the first place. We just asked him to play in a couple songs, and then he asked to play it to, he was like, hey, I'll go out and play the shows with you, so I never really thought he was going to stick around anyways. Okay. So I was grateful for, you know, it was nice while it lasted, and I was grateful to have him there, and I still have a good relationship with him, you know what I mean? So there's zero resentments. It's all gratitude, actually.
Cool.
So, you know, life happens and things happen, and, you know, in different relationships or with different people, and then there's, you know, there's plus and bonuses to every relationship, and I mean pluses and minuses to every relationship. So I'm happy with the people I'm at. I'm happy where I am. I got, you know, I don't really sit around thinking about, you know, there's, you know, even when you think, you know, when a person makes a decision or life delivers them one thing, you know, and then they talk about, well, we should have done this, we should have done that. Well, you don't know. That might have had its own problems, and you wouldn't have known unless you had lived through that decision. So all I can do is the best that I can with where I'm at the moment, and I'm perfectly cool with that. I got no problem with that at all. I mean, sometimes I do get a little bit, you know, if there's certain people that have no emotional intelligence that come out and say, you know, and they say something that's maybe inappropriate about, you know, where's Duff, or it was better with Duff, or that guy ain't Duff, or something like that, then I'm kind of like, fuck you, and the exit door's right over there, because why I sit around and make, you know, if that's the kind of person that you are, that's sitting around being negative about all the things that you don't have, you're not my kind of person anyways. You know what I mean?
Right on.
So it's like, if I go see a band that I don't particularly care for, I'm usually going, man, that drummer's awesome, you know, or I like that song, rather than going, I don't like the singer's voice. So it's like, you know, what do you want to shine a light on the things that are positive, or shine a light on, you know, the bacteria that's growing in around the toilet. You know what I mean? That kind of decides what kind of people are, and I would hate to be miserable people that spent their whole life complaining about shit.
Right? You know? And you're
so
the guy
I don't want to meet them. I don't want to meet them at the merch booth. Don't come on out to that. Don't come out to the merch booth.
All right, everybody, take a lesson. Listen to Jeff right here, right now.
Well, the reality is I understand what, you know, sometimes people shit just jumps out of their mouth and they don't think about, you know, the consequences or how that might affect someone else that they're talking to. But usually I don't find that it's going to have a good impression. And then I feel, it's not going to make a good impression. And at the same time, just, you know, musicians and people that are just because they might be in a public situation doesn't mean that they have that they should have to listen to some bullshit that everybody's opinion, you know, that people have a right to have an opinion about what they're doing. You know, you can have that opinion, but to go up and say that to someone's face, you wouldn't walk down the street and go, those pants make your ass look flat. You know what I mean? You wouldn't go saying that shit to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just like have some respect for human beings and their feelings, you know?
Well, I'll tell you
what. That part's old. Musically, I'm having the time of my life. But once in a while we get Eeyore shows up and tries to rain on the parade, and I'm kind of like, you know, and I mean, I don't get antagonistic or angry with those people. I'm just kind of like, what's wrong with you that you think that would be appropriate to say, weirdo?
Right.
And then I move on.
Right.
You know,
well, you know, and that's such a great point because, I mean, you know, you are the man writing the lyrics, you know, it's your story, you know, so, I mean, the song is yours, you know, and everyone else is bringing their complementary skills to the table, you know, to really bring that story, which I believe every song is, to life, you know. And I think the one thing that's really cool is that, you know, even though Duff, you know, is with Guns N' Roses, you know, and Barrett's doing his thing, the thing that's so cool that people may not even be thinking about is here you are on tour right now with Myles Kennedy and Company. Why are you able to be on tour with Myles Kennedy and Company? You know, one, because, you know, Myles isn't on tour with Slash right now. Because Slash is with Guns N' Roses. You know, Myles is doing his project, you know, with his own band that now you guys get to be a part of. And, from everything that I've seen and heard, you know, with all of your very passionate fans, which I know in Raleigh and in Wilmington, they were tremendous. And it was just really cool. It was really cool to see the reception of everybody and the love that they showed you guys and the way that you, Jeff, specifically play to your crowd. How much do you feed off the audience? Because, I mean, your performance, it seems like you really do have a lot emotionally invested in it. Like, you know, like you're just almost a different person. You know what I mean? Like you're...
Well, I'm totally a different person. I mean, playing music is kind of where I get to get my freak on, I guess, but I'm starting to realize I don't really read the audience very well.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes if an audience is like if I'm not getting anything out of the audience, sometimes that I start to think that like, what the fuck's their problem? You know what I mean? And then I actually later on come to find that it's because they were actually taking it in. You know what I mean? They're like kind of jaw dropped. They were like blown away, you know? Or sometimes I'll see someone on their phone and I'll kind of zero them out, and I'll be like, I'm going to fuck with this guy. And then later on, they'll see me after the show, and they'll be like, dude, I've never seen you guys before, and while you were playing, I was Googling you and adding your songs to my playlist. You know what I mean? So it's like I think a lot of people go around assuming that, you know, that they can read minds and that they can foretell the future and stuff like that. And, you know, reality is that, you know, we do have our emotions and our feelings and our ideas about the intuition.
Sure.
But our intuition is not always correct. And then it goes to be, you know, that's like, what's my inner dialogue telling me that if I think these people aren't reacting, and how insecure and fucked up am I that I have to jump up on a stage and, you know, shimmy around and scream at people in order to feel valid. You know what I mean? It's such a fucking weird thing. So I try to just, you know, go out there and, you know, feel the music and do the best I can. But at the same time, I want to have, you know, create something that people would remember. And, you know, but what that is, one showed versus another, has to be honest.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so that, and the people and what the vibe or the energy that they share, or the environment, even the weather and all these things have a lot to do without winding that up or putting that down. Or did I get to eat that day, or did I get sleep that night? There's all sorts of stuff that's at play to that. But so I try to find, you know, use what I got there. And, you know, sometimes you got matches, other times you got to rub two sticks together for a real long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Right on. Now, one thing I do want to touch on, because from your debut album, Walking Papers, to WP2, a few years went by. You know, there's a little bit of downtime. And I know you got your other band, Missionary Position, which I love the Missionary Position, by the way. You know, I know everybody loves Missionary Position. But, you know, in that break, you know, can we be looking forward to some new Walking Papers material sooner than later, following up from WP2? Is that something that you've had a chance to do some writing on the road?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm always kind of writing, but we did the Static Land record that some people aren't familiar with, and that we actually did recorded after WP2. So there's already newer music. So if someone likes WP2, they should go check out the Static Land record, because that's actually the next chapter. It just happened to come out first, so I guess it's a prequel.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
So, because that record was already out there. So, I mean, and then, you know, we are writing, and we got, you know, new songs and stuff like that. And I got a bunch in the can, and I'm just, you know, trying to, there's actually a few songs that we'll probably put out soon that are already recorded, and then there's other stuff that we're working on. We'll just kind of see what happens with that, you know.
Nice, nice. Now, I got to ask you, because this is Rock Take Music Television. You know, we're not a podcast. This isn't radio. This is video. So,
awesome.
Yes. So, official music videos. You know, I checked out your GarageBand sessions, Hard to Look Away. You know, I love that. Even though it wasn't necessarily put out there as an official music video, it was an official music video. You know, so are there any other music videos that you're putting together on the new music that you're putting together? Anything that's coming out? Anything that we can be looking forward to?
We actually have one that's in the works right now, which I think is pretty clever.
Awesome.
There's actually 2 twin videos, but we'll see if they're both good enough to come out for 2 different songs, and they kind of have a similar style, but they're like, you know, that's more like a conceptual thing that we're not in them or anything.
Okay.
But then with the live videos, if it's a performance video, it's like all the videos that Walking Papers have done have all been actually, there's one that's like a comic book, but the other ones are all actual performance videos, but the performances are real performances. They're actually recorded in the performances.
Oh, nice.
So that, but I do love video as an art form. I actually think that there's, you know, for a while with video, when people had huge budgets and they could, you know, blow $500,000 on 3 minutes in a video, they're doing stuff that it doesn't even happen in motion pictures, you know? And I think that there was a high period of art there that now people don't have that kind of promotional budget from record labels and stuff. So, you know, it's one of the things that the music industry is struggling with right now. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people think that the bands, you know, they think that record labels are suffering, but then a lot of people think of the record labels as some evil thing that's controlling their artists, but they actually forget that a lot of the promotional dollars that was put into the production of records, or for instance, like a live orchestra on a track, or a indulgence, you know, music video or a creative idea being allowed to be pursued, had a lot of that had to do with the promotional budget. So maybe the bands never made any money off the records, but the record companies making money off the records allowed them to spend more on the, you know, promotional items, which would be a video. So, you know, and so that's, but I'm not a let's go back in time kind of guy. I'm kind of excited about the future, and let's see what happens with the future. And some of those, you know, sometimes maybe musicians and artists being up against that adversity of not having those budgets hopefully will force them to be creative and find new ways to make things happen without budget. Because at the same time, technology is opening all sorts of doors as well, you know.
Right on.
Yeah.
Now, some final thoughts, you know, especially because of where you guys come from, you know, and the rich legacy this particular area has. I'm talking about Seattle here. You know, Seattle is such an epic melting pot of musicians, you know, and we know full well all the bands that have come out of there, including you know. So what are your thoughts, you know, on how the music scene has kind of evolved, and, you know, because Seattle really has its staple in that birth of grunge, you know, with, like, you know, Soundgarden and Nirvana and Alice in Chains and all those guys, you know. How do you what do you think about that music scene today?
Well, I mean, I think it's you know, it's a music city to where people maybe think about. Well, I mean, I met a guy in Seattle the other day that wasn't actually in a band. It was crazy. I mean, I was like, "You were not in a band?" He was like, "No," and I was like, "That's amazing," because everybody there is a musician or an artist. It seems like, you know. So I'm happy to. I think there was a hangover for a while of like what Seattle music was, or there was like people figured if you weren't grunge, how could you make music in that city? And I think that the people there that did make music and survived have done a lot of good things for other musicians and stuff like that. But you know, it's also, I'm not sure that, you know, shining that big of a spotlight on any celebrity, there might be some kind of backlash or some kind of pressure that comes with it that's pretty hard to cope with. So there's a lot of darkness to that success at the same time that, you know, but I think as a city now, it's a pretty crazy city. It's like, it's out of control how it's, you know, a lot of people don't know, but like Bellevue's right across the water from Seattle, basically a suburb of Seattle, and it's the most expensive per square foot place to live in the United States. Wow. So Seattle's a very expensive place to live. I would, if you're an artist and you got to struggle, you know, especially at this days with music is not as lucrative, you know, as it would have been during that era. It's probably a really tough town to make it in. It's probably equivalent to like what New York was at a certain period of time, or, you know, I mean, or Los Angeles. It's so expensive that it's probably kind of prohibitive for people to have opportunities.
Jeez.
You know?
Well, that's not good news.
No, that's not, I mean, it's not, but I think, you know, at the same time, it's like nature is going to take its course, and it's like, you know, some of that is because of the music and all that stuff attracted people to that town.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. I mean, when that thing was happening and I was a kid, you know, it might have been like 500,000 people in the city. Now it's like 2,500,000. And so many bands and stuff moved there because they thought that was going to be their shot to make it. You know what I mean? And now with the tech and all that kind of stuff, it's like so populated. You know, it's like something becomes so big that it kind of collapses on itself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but then when that happens, maybe everything gets a different fresh start and a different thing happens, or it moves somewhere else and the opportunity goes somewhere else. And it's just like the natural course of things, I think, you know. But I think it's better to, you know, have that spark and have something happen than like, hey, let's not try to do anything because it might have consequences. You know what I mean? You got, you know, people should grow and let their fire burn, but you know, when it does, it might actually get so big that it extinguishes itself, you know.
Right on. Right on.
So there's good bands there, but it's a different thing than it used to be. That's all I'm saying. It's different.
Right. I got you. So next up for the Walking Papers. All right. Walking Papers. Are we talking about supporting WP2 well into 2019? Are we looking at getting back into the recording studio and taking some of this writing that you've been working on, producing our next album? What's next? What can your fan base be looking forward to?
I mean, that's what I'm planning on doing. But if another tour comes up, then we'll have to just address that when it happens.
All right.
But when we're home, I'm all for like, hey, let's make something happen. And then we've been hitting it pretty hard. So when we get home, I'm looking forward to having that break and like, you know, kind of incubating some ideas and see what they turn into. But you know, if a new opportunity comes, which they seem to do, I mean, we didn't know we had this tour. We were on tour and thought we were going to come home and make a record, and then this tour popped up.
Right on. Right on.
So if that happens, you know, you kind of got to take your chances when you get them, you know.
Right on. All right. Well, everybody, we are here with Jeff Angell from Walking Papers. Make sure you go check out their latest album. Came out in early January 2018, WP2. And go check out their YouTube channel. We're adding lower thirds here, so make sure you go check out their videos and see what they have going on. And go check out their website, all their latest news, Facebook, social media, all that good stuff. And Jeff,
please do.
Yeah, man. Jeff, thank you. Thank you for putting up with me through all the technical issues that we had,
That was a little rough, man. That was a little rough. But we made it.
It was.
You know, we made it.
We made it. So, Jeff, thank you again. Rock Titan Music Television. We are out.